to go. You're now in pole position for the third place above Villa. But is there a sense of calm still? There is from you, I can tell that, but amongst the group?
Yeah, there's a calm. I think we can enjoy winning. Certainly can enjoy winning. I think it's a good feeling, and it's something we want to keep getting used to as much as we can. It's a tough league, and it's tough to win games. So I think we can enjoy that, but certainly keeping a cap on it, keeping a lid on it, and understanding where we are and what it takes to win the games today.
Are mistakes costing you too much at the moment? Giving the ball away, it seemed to happen quite a lot today.
Yes, this is the key. Sometimes we did fantastic, and sometimes we missed a little bit some momentum to control the match like we were doing.
Another 2 assists for you. That's 16 in the Premier League this season, which is a new club record, which seems to mean a lot to you as well.
Obviously, it's a huge compliment from me that I've got this record ahead of someone like David Beckham, that is known by his passing range, by his assist, by his quality of pass. But obviously, I think scoring the goal should be always the pinnacle of football.
And there's a confirmation of Bruno Fernandes breaking the Manchester United assist record, although I think when David Beckham set that, an assist record wasn't even a thing. But anyhow, he's in the form of his life, isn't he, Bruno?
Yeah, he is, and since he's gone more back into a number 10 role, I think his performances have improved, his output has improved, and he's been a joy to watch. He really has, and he's the best player, I think, in the league this season. I think he's been that good. So if you look at him here, the positions he's taken up now in this number 10 position, it's very difficult for the opposition to pick up. So you see Aston Villa have a lot of bodies in the middle of the pitch. He's very clever, he pulls out wide. You can see Cunha. Cunha knows the minute this ball goes into him, Bruno's got the quality to put him behind and put him in the goal. And he does that. It's a great pass. The way to pass is excellent, and it's a wonderful finish from Cunha again. Look at Bruno here. He's scanning. He's always aware of where the space is around him. Now here, nice little bit of skill. Simple pass, lays it off. The ball goes out wide to Cunha, who has a good touch. But Bruno never stands still. He's always aware of where the space is. He comes into the middle of the penalty area, where he's in space again. It doesn't come to him, but Sesko, good finish, and then look at Bruno here, a little bit annoyed he didn't get on the end of that one. But on this clip here, I've played in this position, so I know exactly what's going through his head here. He's almost playing as the second. Well, he is playing as the second striker. Before, when he was playing where Maino is, he's in the middle of the pitch. He's a lot of bodies around him. As Aston Villa go forward, the midfield players for Aston Villa, they follow the ball, and now Bruno is in a very difficult position for Villa to defend against. He's got acres of space. Sesko sees he's got time on the ball. Great passing behind the game with his left foot this time. And then the less said about that one, the better.
Move on.
But again, in this number 10 position, here he is, way to pass again. Cuts Aston Villa apart, follows his pass, tries to get on the end of the cross, but it doesn't come. And here, willing to run in behind as well. It's a great ball by Ugarte, just a little bit overhit, but he's willing to run in behind. So his performances and everything about him this season, I think, has been brilliant.
You know when you showed that clip where he would have been with Amorim, but he stayed where he was. How hard is that when you are playing that position to not go back in and help defensively and actually hold your position and benefit from the freedom?
Yeah, it's hard if you're in possession and you're not on the ball, but when you're actually defending, you see he's in a position where if he stands still, Aston Villa players are doing his movement for him. They're moving with the game and they're moving with the ball going forward. But by standing still, if Man United then win the ball, it's what you say, don't switch off. Correct. So he's in a position where he's waiting. If Man United win the ball comes into him, and then with all the clips we've just shown, players run off him. The minute ball comes into him, players will run off him.
It's also the balance with Maino and Casemiro, because they're doing a really good job behind him. Now he trusts them. If you look at his movement, what Wayne showed there, he was on the left one side, he was on the right, because now they've got the balance. When they played the old formation, it was very difficult, because when you're in the two, you've got to go, but you've always still got to get back as well. Now he's got that protection that allows him to roam and do exactly what he's been doing.
But that was a problem under Amorim, because he was playing in the two midfield, but he was also left and he was also right. So when he lost the ball, there was big gaps in the middle of the pitch. Now they've got that two players who are consistently behind him. They're playing the same team. There's only really one change we're seeing under Carrick, which was Sesko for Diallo. So the consistency in the team selection is also helping.
Well, let's look at that, and then we'll come back to the Casemiro-Mainu axis that's behind Fernandes. That is a big difference, isn't it? To go from over 2 changes per game under Amorim to less than a change per game under Carrick.
It's as simple as that. More points, better formation. The players are used to the formation, and you're getting better results. When I did a piece earlier in the season, I was talking about Amorim. It's not that the players are not good enough. I think the players at Man United are very good players. The problem was there was in positions what they wasn't used to with a manager who was being very stubborn on only playing one type of way. And you will always get results because you've got quality players. But when you put them in the right formation, you get even better results.
Just to go back to the Casemiro thing then, the crowd were chanting today, 1 more year. They did have an option to exercise him for another year. They didn't take up that option. Would you revisit that?
I would now. I said early on his time at Manchester United, I didn't think he quite had the legs to get round. I think a few people felt the same, but I take that back. I think he's been absolutely fantastic this season.
But again, we go back to the formation. If he's playing in a 2 with Fernandes and Fernandes is going to get the ball and explore and create, he's going to be left alone. The difference is him and Mainu doing the job. And you don't even have to be amazing in that position. You just have to be disciplined. And that's exactly
would you revisit it and see if you could get him to stay?
100%. Because he's so good on set pieces as well. And just experience. He's been at Real Madrid. And to have that experience in the dressing room. And not only that, his performances, I think he's owed that now.
Yeah. What's actually come through in all of this chat is the importance of the midfield. So when you flip it to looking at Villa and where it's going wrong for them at the moment, 3 straight defeats in the league, it's that area, isn't it? And that's through no fault of Unai Emery.
Yeah, I think it's not only that. I think the amount of games, they look very tired. Losing Tielemans, who's the one who creates attacks, creates something defensively astute and knows exactly where to be. Kamara also. And Cash as well, with his energy up and down. So you look at results and have not been good enough in terms of the last 3 in the Premier League. They've lost the last 3, obviously, the Chelsea game and the Wolves game as well. But they look tired and they've got key players missing, but it's no fault of Emery. I think they'll be back.
Did give a considerable boost to their hopes of being in the Champions League next season. That felt like a big result for them, Gary.
Yeah, really big. I thought before the game that Manchester United would win. My actual only concern, it was actually a question that I asked Michael Carrick before the game when we spoke to him, was that this 11-day break that they've had. Look, you can build it as having time on the pitch with the players, but then there's a lack of rhythm that you build in your competitiveness, and just having too many days in between sort of matches, I think, can be a problem sometimes. And maybe that's what we saw in the first half, a result of a quite disappointing 45 minutes from both teams. The game didn't really get going. I actually asked a couple of fans in there when I went into the toilet outside, I said, what do you think? They said, boring. And it was just a little bit like, Ahmad had the header. There were 2 or 3 really good crosses put into the box, but there was a real lack of urgency. We'll come on to Villa, obviously, shortly. But for United, it was a must-win today. And I think it was really important that they showed some sort of level of performance, because I think in the first 3 or 4 Michael Carrick matches, there was a really high level of performance where I was really excited. And then in the next 3 or 4, the results were there, but the performances weren't quite at the level. And that can happen when you're sort of playing matches and you don't always play at sort of a real high performance level. But eventually, when you play 60-40 matches, 50-50 matches, and you're winning them, eventually you will get caught out. And that happened against Newcastle when they obviously lost their last game. So I thought today, the results the most important at this stage of the season. But I also thought it was time to show a performance. I thought the second half, they were really good. And I think Bruno had a massive impact on that. But I think, look, I always imagine what managers will say to players at half-time. And I know Michael Carrick pretty well. He's not going to go in there and start shouting and screaming. But I think he'll be quite sort of firm with them at half-time and say, look, lift it. Get your urgency right. Get your tempo and your passing right. Do things quicker. Get to set pieces quicker. Get to corners quicker. Throw-ins quicker. Demonstrate sort of what would be an intent to the opposition, that you're up for this and that they're not going to get away with it. And I thought from the very first minute in the second half, the first 5 minutes of the second half, United were really good. And I thought Bruno, to be fair, you could see him. He was just like getting to the ball quicker. He was moving it quicker. Far too many times, and this is actually not a Manchester United thing, I'm sick of seeing teams have defenders on the ball at the back rolling their foot on it. A defender should never, ever, in my mind, roll his foot on the ball at the back and be looking at the game as if there's some sort of like Beckenbauer or Koeman type figure. They're not. There's no Beckenbauers or Koemans out there on that pitch that can play 60-yard passes and sort of dictate the game. Very exceptional centre-backs, I would accept rolling their foot on it. I just see so many times the Villa centre-backs on the 6-yard box with Martinez. I saw the United centre-backs taking far too long on the ball. Get the ball with accuracy and speed into the best players in the pitch as quickly as possible. And that is, to me, what United should be about. The second half, or the first half, they didn't get the ball into Bruno Fernandes anywhere near enough. They didn't get the ball into the front three. I think Mbeumo only had, 10 or 11 touches, and none of them were in the right areas of the pitch. Similarly with Ollie Watkins as well, by the way. But in the second half, Bruno Fernandes got on the ball in dangerous areas very quickly, and he got himself more involved as well. So it was a complete difference in shift. But that can happen when you're not at the game for 11 days. You sometimes can come out there just rusty. Simple as that. It's like when you've not driven maybe for a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and you're away on holiday and you come back and you just think, oh, get your bearings back. It's a little bit like that, and I think that's what maybe United were suffering in that first half. But Michael Carrick, I think, will have had a firm word with them about basically those simple basics of playing with more urgency and speed. And I thought when United actually did get the tempo up, I didn't think Villa could sort of what would be level with them at all. Yeah, and it's a really good day for Manchester United. Thought Bruno Fernandes was exceptional in that second half. He was brilliant.
The first goal was scored by somebody who, in all probability, if United are in the Champions League next season, won't be here to play in it for them. Is Casemiro, like Fernandes, a standard setter here, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got such vast experience. Obviously, Manchester United have been getting him at the latter part of his career. You imagine when you see him now, well, we know, because we watched him win 5 Champions Leagues, what he is an exceptional central midfield player that played in one of the most dominant central midfields that you'll ever see. An amazing midfield up at Madrid. But United, it's right that United do let him go, and it's right that he does leave United. This is like a cameo at the end of his career, almost like a swan song, where he's probably loving every minute of this, and you can see it. He's showing his badge, he's sort of kissing his badge to the fans. The fans absolutely love him. And it's right that he does leave at the end of the season. They will miss his presence in both boxes. I think that he's phenomenal at getting on the end of crosses, and I think he's phenomenal at clearing them. He's brave, by the way, in the air. He's really good. He gets up early. It was an exceptional goal. But United need 2 central midfield players in the summer. In the transfer window last August, they rebuilt the forward line with Sesko, Mbeumo and Cunha to go along with the likes of Fernandes and Ahmad. And that's really now starting to sort of hum a little bit, and it's starting to purr. And you can see that there are real goals and real threat, because Manchester United haven't scored enough goals last season. That's the absolute no here. You have to score goals. So they've corrected that in the sense that, with Bruno Fernandes creating, even Mason Mount I would throw into that when he's fit, there does look to be good options up top. But the centre of midfield is a problem. I think, to be fair, Mainu and Casemiro are doing a great job right now for Michael Carrick. However, every United fan in this stadium knows that he's going to be nowhere near enough when Manchester United start playing in the Champions League next season, which it's more than likely they will, and they don't get knocked out of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup in the first rounds. So when they play a bit further in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, and they're playing in the Champions League, they're going to need 3 or 4 really good midfield players. And at the moment, you've got Mainu, that's a midfield player who I think you can definitely sort of buy into, but you can't really look at any of the others and think that that's going to work. Casemiro's leaving. Ugarte, I think, will leave. So they need 2 really good central midfield players. Probably one that's more positional, maybe like a Michael Carrick type, and one that's maybe more of a destroyer. So I think that basically they need those 2 players. That's the next area, I think, of focus. I do think the back needs looking at, but I think midfield will be the real focus in the summer transfer window. But Casemiro is doing a great job for United right now. It's been an enormous investment in someone who's getting towards the end of his career. I mean,
with your business hat on, I was going to ask you this. Do you think it was a good investment? Because, I mean, we've seen the goal he scored today. He scored a big goal for them, didn't he, in that League Cup final, one of the 2 trophies they won under Erik ten Hag. Have they got value for money out of him in his time here?
Look, this is nothing to do with Casemiro. This is to do with Manchester United's poor recruitment over many, many years and them overpaying. They've invested £140 million in Casemiro. £20 million a year in wages and £60 million in a fee. That's not a clever move because they're now losing him for nothing. So no, I mean, if you're spending £140 million on a midfield player over 4 years, you'd expect that there'd be some sort of residual value at the end of it. You wouldn't be expecting that he would be running his career down and sort of getting to 35. So it's not a deal that Manchester United would do today. You know, and you can see that with the purchasing they've made in the summer of Larmans, Sesko, Cunha, and Mbeumo. They're all ages where they've got growth in them. So that type of signing won't happen again, I don't think, at the club. I'd be amazed if it did. This is not a slight on Casemiro, because I think Casemiro's given his absolute all for this football club. I think he's, to be fair, someone who absolutely leaves everything out there on the pitch. His legs at times have let him down. What I would say is there's a period in the middle of his 4-year contract where he looked heavier in his body, and I don't know what happened there. Whether it's the training, whether it's something that's happened with him or whatever, I don't know. But he looks fitter, he looks leaner, he looks freer. And look, he's doing a great job. But no, you can't say it's been a great investment at £140 million, but that's not Casemiro's fault. You know, I think the rumour has it that he basically at the end, you know, when he got offered the money, he just couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe that basically Manchester United were offering him that level of money and that he basically had to go. I think that, to me, that just tells it all. But that's not a slight on him, because I actually think that he's given his absolute every, you know, bit of energy that he could for 4 years at the club. But it's more of a reflection on the club and the sort of what would be issues that Manchester United were having 4 years ago when they signed Anthony, I think, in that same transfer window for 85 million. So, to be fair, Manchester United are in a pretty different place now in respect to, I don't think Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox will do that type of signing. In fact, they won't. I'm pretty sure of it. So, yeah, well done to Casemiro for what he's done this season. I think leaving Manchester United and being a big influence in getting them to the Champions League is enormous, because it gives that money back into the club, which allows the club to reinvest, obviously, in the sort of squad for next season, which is important. And the club should just be in the Champions League anyway with the size of it. So, you know, he's done a great job this season, and he was very good today. Actually, at 1-0, he was in my sort of man of the match thoughts, high up there, but Bruno took over.
Because now he, Bruno, has the assist record in a season for Manchester United. He's also pushing towards the record for the Premier League as a whole, held by De Bruyne and Henry jointly. He's 4 short of that now. You just can't minimise the influence he's had on the club, can you, since he's been here? No,
he's been exceptional since he's come to the club. There was a period about 18 months ago where I thought that he went like this, and then there was a little bit maybe of a dip slightly below that standard, but it just feels to me now, right now, that he's playing the very best and the most comfortable that I've seen him. He's exceptional on the ball. He's seen passes early. He's always seen the pass early. But what I like about him most is that he basically looks the furthest forward to see what the maximum damage that he can do with a pass. And he finds and he looks for runners all the time. And I think that's what a midfield player or a player that plays as an advanced midfield player like him should do. You're either a passer or you're a dribbler. He's more of a passer, so he gets on the ball, his head's always up, he knows where he is. He gets into that sometimes right channel, sometimes that left channel, and he's always thinking who's pulling off the shoulder, who's making the runs in behind. And you've seen some delicious passes in this game, in between defenders. And I've got utmost admiration for him. I think also the whinging that I had a problem with 2 or 3 years ago, the sort of always have complaining that teammates always sort of going around, walking around, that's definitely tempered. I think he's matured, because I don't think anybody likes to see that. That's not something that anybody likes to see. You want to see players coming together, and so I think his leadership's getting better. Obviously, he's admired enormously and respected by his teammates. You can see that. But his influence on the games is massive. And I think you've put up there now Cunha, Ahmad and Mbeumo, and then Sesko when he comes on, or Mount. He's got players who are more like-minded. You know, Cunha's got an arrogance, and a really good arrogance that I really love about him, that he belongs out there on that pitch. And Bruno needs that alongside him. He needs players who can work at the same sort of what would be mindset as him, the same intelligence level, same confidence and the same belief. And I think they've all got that. Ahmad does that. He's always wants the ball. And Mbeumo always wants the ball. Sesko's growing. week by week, even though he's obviously been left out today, he's come on again and impacted the game. And I think Mount plays really well with Bruno Fernandes when he plays as well. So he's got players up there which are on the same wavelength as him all of a sudden. And I think that is having a big impact on him because it makes him look better and it makes them look better when he's around them.
Interesting that you talked about Sesko about in the context of when he comes on. Is he making himself too useful as a substitute?
You asked me, didn't you, a few weeks ago about whether he's a super after the Everton game, was it? Yeah, maybe. And I said, no, I don't think he actually is a super sub. Because I think he looks like a type of player that's going to start games and be a sort of point as a centre-forward. And I demanded, actually, after that game, I said, I think he should start against Crystal Palace at the weekend, which was the next game. And he did. But there is no doubt that Michael Carrick, I think, likes the impact of bringing him on and likes looking over his shoulder and thinking, OK, I've got Mbeumo, I've got Ahmad, I've got Mount, I've got Cunha, I've got Fernandes, and they'll run them into the ground, and then we're more fluid with those players. We've got more legs, we've got more sort of what would be connection and combinations. I think that's how he sees it. However, with 25, 30 minutes to go, as the game opens up a little bit and there's maybe a bit more, we need a goal or there's crosses going into the box, albeit there were crosses going into the box in the first half today, 2 or 3 of them, which Sesko might have liked. I think he thinks, I like bringing him on. So if you're bringing him on, rather than say, let's say you play Mbeumo on the right and you leave Ahmad on the bench, it's just not, Ahmad's fantastic, but it's not as big a presence as a centre-forward. Bringing a centre-forward on, I think always has a sort of bigger impact. And I think Michael Carrick likes something about having him maybe behind him. And that is maybe a slight problem for Sesko, but it's good again today that he's come on. But you're right, he is walking into that role of, at the moment, an impact player off the bench. But just remember, this is a young player. I think he really struggled at the beginning. I think he struggled for his confidence. He's now got his power in his legs. He looks stronger in his sort of physicality. He's got his goals and his confidence. He's also going to have a first season where he's going to do pretty well in terms of his goals. But next season, he's going to have a lot more matches. So there's going to be Champions League. I'm going to keep saying it. Maybe I'm sort of being a little bit ahead of myself. But it does look like Manchester United will get into the Champions League now. It feels like they're the team that are really sort of starting to hit the straps and that look like they're ones that are sort of best placed. He's going to play a lot of football. And he's still young. I don't see him as a super sub. He's not a player that I see like that. But at the moment, I think he may have to play that role for the rest of the season whilst Michael Carrick's just, doing what he's doing, because he's got a rhythm of him in coming on and winning matches. And that's something that managers won't like to change.
So just a quick word on the run-in, because United now this season have beaten every single one of the other teams in the top 6. So, but they've dropped points against West Ham and they lost at Newcastle. So when you look at the run-in and the only team they've lost to, they've still got to play is Brentford. Do you then start to sort of fear that it's raising themselves for that kind of game that might cause them more of a problem? The likes of Bournemouth, Leeds, Brentford themselves, Sunderland, Forest, Brighton, those are the kind of games that they might fear more than your Liverpools and your Chelseas?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a case of raising themselves. I actually think it's the style of those teams that are the problem for this United 11, and not actually this United 11. I think you can go back 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Manchester United have often done quite well against teams that they can counter-attack against and can leave space in behind. When teams drop off and play a bit deeper, are more compact and play on the counter-attack against them, I just think that, to be fair, every United team for the last 5, 6, 7 years has found it more difficult to operate against that type of team and the style of them. So I think it's about, in the summer, adding players who can play more patiently, who mean that when you do dominate possession, which United will maybe against those teams, they've got the creativity, they've got the presence of a back four who will sustain attacks. I think Arsenal do it really well. Arsenal, to be fair, when they sort of playing against a team like that, they almost suffocate them and they keep them in and they don't let them come out. And all the Arsenal players, including Gabriel and Saliba, are almost 20 yards outside the 18-yard box, which means that they just sustain attacks. and then you just keep pressurising and you keep putting it wide and you keep recycling it. I don't think Manchester United have quite got the back four yet to be able to do that, to really sort of what would be sustain attacks and press in when they're attacking. So when Manchester United have got the ball in the opposition's final third and they're working it across, the defenders need to be really brave and be on top of it so that when it gets cleared out, there is no counter-attack for the team that are maybe sort of what would be bottomish of the table. They've got to make sure they just keep them in there and pen them in and work them and fatigue them. And I don't think they do that well enough right now, and they haven't done it for 5, 6, 7 years. But you need really brave defenders. I mean, when I played, we had Yapstam and Ronnie Johnson. They were so brilliant at 2v2. They were fantastic. And then Vidic and Rio, outstanding at being able to press in and do that, which allowed the two fullbacks to go forward. It allowed one of the central midfield players to push in, which meant we were always maintaining attacks. And I don't think this United team have got that yet. But, look, there's another round of recruitment to go in the summer. It's obvious they had a plan last summer to improve attack. It's plainly clear they need to deal with central midfield. It might then be the summer after when they finally get round to new centre-backs, because they have got a problem at centre-back. The problem at centre-back, actually, is that at the moment, that De Ligt and Martinez, arguably with Maguire, their two best centre-backs, they can't get on the pitch. And it's a real problem. Shaw is playing every week, and he's more than good enough to play out here every week. Let's be clear, but how long is that going to last for? Can he do that next season, the season after, and the season after? If he can, Luke Shaw's your left back, no problem, because I don't think you'll find better.
It'd probably be tougher for him if they were in the Champions League. Extra commitment.
That's the issue. When the every 3 days comes, and United are going to need someone at left back to cope without him, because the reality of it is he going to break down if he's playing 55, 60 games rather than 35, 40? And that's the question that we'll need asking next season. So, yeah, there is a doubt there, but not on the quality of the left back. It's on the actual sort of resilience and robustness of him when he plays every 3 or 4 days. However, Thomas Tuchel will be looking at Luke Shaw and thinking there isn't probably a better left back than him, but I can't play him every 3 or 4 days. And you've got Nico O'Reilly, you've got Lewis Hall, you've got Livramento, you've got Jed Spence, and he probably thinks that they are more capable of playing every 3 or 4 days in hot conditions in a World Cup, and that's why he may lose out, Luke Shaw. It's not through ability. I think he's been outstanding for United this season. And then at right back, you've got Dalot and Mazraoui at the moment, which I think for now is fine, but I think eventually in sort of, you know, in the next round of recruitment, when it comes to defenders, which probably won't be this next summer, it'll be the summer after, will need dealing with. So, look, United, I think, there's been a bit of noise this week about this 150th anniversary, 2028, winning the title. It's too early for that. I mean, Michael Carrick himself said step by step. There is no way that Manchester United should be talking about the title, because 8 weeks ago, when we were sat upon this gantry against Everton, against Bournemouth, against whoever else they were playing out here that we were watching at that time, it was desperate. So we've got to be careful and, you know, jump ahead of ourselves and think that basically because United are third right now and looking, you know, in a good position for where they would have been at the start of the season, where they would have been 7 or 8 weeks ago, there's still a lot to do, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel maybe.
And let's see what that means for the table. Manchester United now 3 points clear of Aston Villa in 4th place. Then it's Liverpool 5 points behind Manchester United. Then Chelsea a point again behind Liverpool as they fight for essentially top 4, but very likely top 5 for Champions League football come the end of next season. If that's how it finishes, and I know you've said Manchester United shouldn't rush into a decision about Michael Carrick, they finish in 3rd place this season from where they finished last season, from where they were when he came in, and they put in that kind of performance against their Champions League rivals. Do they seriously consider giving him the job?
I would have thought so, yeah.
Would you?
No.
Why not?
I think there's better options out there. I think the games where he's come in terms of winning football matches, he's done a very good job. He's obviously simplified things, but there's been no jeopardy in other games. They've had 3 weeks to prepare for the matches. It's been good timing for him to go in there, and he's done a very good job. I take my hat off to him. I mean, if he does get the job in the summer, he said, listen, good luck to you. But I think there's far better options out there for the next manager, Man United. If Carrick had been mentioned 3 months ago, you would have been locked up to be the next United manager. We would have said he wasn't even the reckoning. But timing, he's got the opportunity, he's done a very good job there. I think there's better options out there. Simple as that, but he's done a very good job. United are searching out to be in the Champions League, of course. But United, obviously making the decisions there, will have to go out and interview people and see what's out there.
If he's winning games, if he has a really experienced backroom staff, which he has, that have experience at England level, if the fans love him, if the players, as we're hearing and as we'll say publicly, love having him around the ground, and he's turned things around for Manchester United, why is there a better option?
Most players
What's
do like a
better than that?
caretaker manager. It's different when he comes in, then he's got to make decisions about contracts and pre-season and medical staff, and he's involved in all that, transfers and recruitment. His job the last few months, obviously, has been to win football matches. I know that's a manager's job anyway, but he's not had any distractions, even as a manager. And of course, he's done it. I give him credit for that. But if he's given a job, then there's different responsibilities for him. And I think to manage Man United, I think you need someone with a lot more experience in terms of winning trophies, competing in Europe, and he hasn't got that. He might have it in a few years, and he might be in the mix then. But the fact he's winning football matches at the moment, of course, gives him a great chance. But I think if he becomes permanent manager, and all this chat that everyone loves him, I don't know if they were loving him last week when they couldn't beat Newcastle with 10 men. There's a game you can look at and analyse and go, well, what happened there? He beat Aston Villa today. Aston Villa were shocking. Absolute shocking. The more I look at Aston Villa, I'm thinking they'll be missing out in Europe. How bad they've been today. So the timing was good for United. For today's game, Villa on the back of a European game. And United, because they were so bad at the start of the season, they got no distractions. And remember, this is the same group of players that finished 15th. So everyone else can get giddy about Man United being third in the league. I don't. I'm not one of them. I don't get all excited for stuff like that. I get excited when teams are winning trophies and competing week in, week out. So I'm not one to get too giddy.
I know. Ashley, what would you do?
If he's going to keep going the way that he's going, I think you do give him the job. I'm going differently to what Roy's saying.
Good luck.
Think the way that... Of course,
You have the right to be wrong.
I'm all right, no problem. I think the way that he's gone back into Man United, he's just simplified everything. And I think if he does go from caretaker manager to permanent manager, I don't think Carrick changes. I think he stays the same way. Like you've seen him, he's going to the FA Youth Cup, he's done stuff for Foundation. He's got fans, hoping again. If anybody had said Man United were going to be competing to get in Champions League months ago, you would have been crazy, because there was no way they was going to do that. He's gone back to a simple formation. He's put players in the right positions. And also, he's got fans, he's got the players wanting to run, wanting to play. OK, at times, it's not a Man United team that, is going to have a lot of possession. And we've seen them play counter-attacking football. But, they've been used to that. He hasn't got a lot of time to, work on the training pitch. He's got to go and win games. Like Roy said, of course, that's what he's got to do. And, it changes from caretaker manager to when you become the manager. But for what he's done in this short space of time, and of course, there's so much more to come. If he keeps on producing results, because right now it's just results, I'm sure if he gets the permanent manager's job next season, he then will go, right, this is how a Manchester United team is supposed to look, and we're going to dominate the ball. We'll play counter-attack when we need to. We're going to sit in a block where we're going to find it hard for teams to break us down, which he has done, and then use the players, use the transfer window. If he, like I said, if he gets the manager's job, use the transfer window. But like I say, the staff that he's got, Steve Holland, it was clever bringing him in. He's got so much experience. He needs to lean on them. Like I say, he's going to have to make more and more decisions around the club. But, I think for what he's done, and, I don't see anybody else out there right now. If there's a big profile manager, I think the only one you say is, if you're not going to give Carrick the job, you go after a Luis Enrique, for me. But to be honest, I don't think Luis Enrique is going to leave PSG to come to Man United. So it would take a lot for him to come there. So I think you give Carrick the job and you let him do what he's doing.
Do you think he's the best option for all the managers on the planet? Everyone's who's pushing for him. It helps that he's English, so that's good for the media, a bit of spin. Another English coach coming through, and apparently Carrick's got friends. He's friends with everybody, which is fine. But if people honestly think he's the best option, but if anyone thinks...
What option would you say then, Roy?
Where would you go?
What options would you...
There's loads of options out there. So we're all sitting here, ex-football people saying there's not better options than Michael Carrick.
I'm not asking about, I'm asking who there would be.
There's loads of options out there. You go and get the best. Carrick's not the best option for Man United. Simple as...
But you tried what you called the best, and it hasn't worked before.
I say
With other
we
managers that have come in, you go, well, OK, Mourinho at the time, Van Gaal, you tried everything.
Yeah.
So one's come in that probably knows the club better than most, has done a great job so far. Got him if he gets to third, I think it'd be really hard not to give it
And
to him.
if they do give him the job, yeah, good luck to him. And if he does the business the next few years, United winning league titles, I'll happily sit here and go, listen, I got it wrong, no problem. But I believe there's better options out there.
Would the note of caution be around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or do you think that Michael Carrick is different?
Yeah, I think he's different. No, and I said that at the time, and I'll say it again. Ole didn't feel
Would you have
right.
mentioned Michael Carrick 3 months ago?
No, of course I wouldn't, Roy. But I'll tell you one thing, I will say right now I'm giving him a mention.
Won 7 or 8. You think 7 or 8 games is enough to become the permanent manager of Man United?
No, probably not. But when we're talking about what he's done right now, and he's got him into third, and I don't see an abundance of elite managers out there that are jumping out.
We're talking about the quality of the Premier League in the last 12 months, and I know that's not his fault. He can only beat what's in front of him. We've seen how bad Liverpool are. We've seen how inconsistent Chelsea are. We've seen how bad Villa were today. So this idea of United finishing third, I'm looking going, well, yeah. What is the big deal
So the people that get mentioned, Unai Emery. Today, he beats Unai Emery. And if we're talking about, I know it's not obviously over a season, but he's done a great job. That doesn't do you any harm. People talk about Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel will be, if England win the World Cup, he'll have any job he wants in the world. If we come limping out, we make the last 16 and we don't do very well, his star is so low, he doesn't get the job. So it can change so quickly. I don't see... I said earlier on, and Andoni Iraola, for me, is an elite manager.
Does experience come into it for you? So you're saying what these other managers have done, or they might have difficult spells over the next year, but Carrick on the back of maybe 12, 13, 14 really good results deserves it more than the lads we've just mentioned?
No, probably not. But I'm saying, but you're asking me, will he get it? I think if he gets the third, I think he makes it incredibly hard for them.
Do you think it's the responsibility of the Man United decision makers to go out and get the best in the industry?
Yeah, but like we said, if you took, who is the best in the industry then?
Well, for United's point of view, there's obviously good options out there. You go and find who you think is the best and go and get them. Yeah. They've done that with Wayne Rooney, Ronaldo. You go and get the best.
But who's the coaches then? Go on, name them.
There's lots. Simone. Enrique.
But they don't.
But are you going to seek? As I said, you go and try and find and get the best. There's loads out there. Well, Tuchel, you've just mentioned.
You've played
Tuchel's only going to be as good as the World Cup. Right. If they don't do well in the World
Cup,
Cup,
he's just signed a new deal anyway with England. Don't get me wrong.
But
you still have to go looking for the best options. Like when you're looking for a midfielder as a club, you go and try and get the best midfielder. You don't get one who's maybe come on loan for 5-6 games. You go, he's the one. That's your responsibility. If they go out and try and suss these managers out and they all come back and they want 25, 30 million a year, you go, no, yeah, I get it. But the responsibility of the board surely is to go, let's go and get the best that's available to Man United. That's it.
Well, you've played under really experienced managers, and you've also played under newer managers. You've been a new manager, you've been a manager with more experience. When you talk about Manchester United going out and buying the best, and one of the main criteria that you think is different from what Michael Carrick offers is experience. What comes with that a Manchester United manager needs to have? What does
your profile,
experience bring you?
Your CV, your experience of being in tough situations. I think there's been no pressure on Carrick the last month or two. Or the players, there's been no jeopardy in their games. They've won a few games and people are all getting carried away for Man United to get in the Champions League position. But if Carrick gets the job in the summer, what's his remit? I'm guessing to win the league title the next year or two. I'm pretty sure it would be. And are we all going to sit here and go, yeah, we think he's capable of doing it? I don't think he is. So I think that experience must come into it. So when you're... Ancelotti, for example, you said who's out there. So just if Ancelotti walks in the summer and he's chatting to the players, I'm sure they're going, this is a guy who's won loads of stuff. And if Carrick's the manager in the summer and he's coming back and Casemiro's gone, he's making decisions on Maguire, it's a different vibe at the club then. They won't be seeing him as this nice guy. He'll have to make tough decisions. And that's where the challenges come in for him. But if he does all that and he produces and he starts winning trophies the next year or two, I'll tell you what, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. But people like Ancelotti, when you're a player and a manager walks in your dressing room, where I played under Brian Clough for Alex, when they're coming to your dressing room, they walk in and you go, oh yeah, I like this. Now you're talking. Has Carrick got that huge respect amongst the players? Maybe they have because he's a nice guy and all this, but I'm on about bringing a CV which you go, oh, here we go. Now you're talking. We're going places with this guy, with his staff. And I'm not saying Carrick and his staff aren't qualified to do sessions. Of course they are. And he has brought experienced coaches with him, of course. And sometimes you have a bit of banter and a bit of humour with people when you're doing podcasts or whatever, but these are proper serious football. I get that. But if you ask me, do I think United will get back to winning league titles the next year or two with Carrick and his staff? The answer is no. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I love it.
That team, by the way, that team still needs investment. So whoever comes in is going to have to buy some players as well. So if they do believe that Michael's the right manager, he's still going to need to plug some holes. They need an elite central midfielder.
There's no pressure on this team. This team, there's been no pressure on them. What pressure has there been? Can you win a few football matches? Imagine if they're near the top of the table, you're going, well, lads, we have to win today. A bit like Man City the weekend. You can't slip up. This group of players hasn't shown any of that over the last year or two. This group of players finished 15th last year. So when your expectations is so low and everyone gets carried away with third or fourth, I don't. That's not my scene. But everyone's get carried away with it, no problem. And as I said, I'll repeat myself, if he gets the job, good luck to him. But there's definitely better options out there that United have to look at. If it doesn't work out, he's proven he can win a few football matches. Let's see if he can win for some titles.
Manchester United at Bournemouth on Friday night, live on Sky Sports. You're in the studio for that one.
Areola. That's another one for him. You know, you beat him.
He's a coach. You just mentioned him. Brought his contract's up, isn't it?
Big fan. I love him.
Is he a good option, for example? You just said to me, name some options.
Absolutely.
Is he one?
Yeah,
right,
I said that. I'll say that again. Yeah, I said it 2 minutes ago.
Do you reckon they're speaking to him?
I don't know.
But should they speak to him?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Right.
Because I think he's elite, yeah. That's right. I said it 2 minutes ago, and I'll
Well,
say
look,
it again.
You can talk more about this on Friday night.
Yeah.
You can argue remotely, and then we can have a little bit of peace in the studio.
Number.
We've got a crew who are about to go into overtime, so we're going to head off now.